I used to have a lot of sleepless nights. I mean, I'd open the bank app, I'd look at the total, I'd look at what bills are coming in, and this is all happening in the middle of the night. I lost my mom, I closed my father's business, um, I had a health scare, I had a lot of limiting beliefs. For the longest time, I've been very afraid to lose money or to spend money. You know, when we did the 5-day workshop, I think it was just enough for me to see what change would look like. And what changed was the belief in myself. Trust in your inner strength, because we all have it. And don't be afraid. It always works out.
Welcome, Prashna. I'm so excited to have you here. You have no idea. Here we have Prashna, who's worked with me sometime around last year. And welcome, Prashna. Tell us something about yourself. What do you do?
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Shalini. So my name is Prashna, as Shalini has said, and I'm a clinical psychologist consultant with a few hospitals in Nairobi, and I have my own practice as well. Mental health, of course, and it's May, so it's May Mental Health for the world. But yeah, that's what I'm passionate about.
This is so amazing. I love what you're doing, Prashna, because I believe you're creating so much impact, and I believe you've grown so much, in the last few years. I mean, even prior to working with me, I believe that there's a lot of impact that you've been driving. So I'm very excited about this conversation. So tell me, Prashna, last year, before you onboarded one of my programs, you had come for the workshop, 5-day workshop, and then you onboarded a program of mine. What were some of the challenges that you are facing, like in your life? What was life like for you?
I had major life-changing situations. Um, I lost my mom. I closed my father's business. Um, I had a health scare, so life had to change, and I had a lot of limiting beliefs. And that is one of the things that I did with you, was work on my belief system, work on not being so fearful, being able to become a little bit more risk of taker. I used to be totally risk averse, very conservative, very afraid. So that's how we got together. I think we first met many years ago at one of the feminine circles. And then you kind of lived in my periphery, but when it was meant to be, it was meant to be.
Absolutely. I mean, I was so happy to meet all of you in the feminine circle. I still remember that day. And I believe the feminine circle itself had so much impact on all of us, right?
Yeah.
But again, as we say, there are certain people that we remember. And of course, I always remembered you from there. And I think after that, we had a small conversation and, we had spoken to each other. And, I think you weren't ready to on board. But tell me something. When you came onto the 5-day workshop, after that, what enticed you to get into the program, the long-term programs, the 4-month program that I was facilitating?
When we did the 5-day workshop, I think it was just enough for me to see what change would look like. Because even in the 5-day, we made some progress. And then, you just said, okay, so take the risk, jump. And I didn't think about it. I didn't dwell on it. I just went with instinct, which said, okay, I can do this. And, with being on call and being at work and being in the medical profession, I think even the 4-month program, I may not have maybe gone 50% of on showing up. But, you would send the worksheets. You'd be kind enough to send me the recordings so that I could catch up whenever I had downtime.
Absolutely.
And so it just worked. You made it easy for me to be able to say, okay, show up when you can. When you can't, I will be able to help you through the other times. So it was easy for me. to commit.
I love that. So I want you to notice something here. What she said, what Prashna said is that she didn't overthink about jumping on board and she used her intuition. So this is what I keep saying about decision making, everybody, that if you are a decision maker, then you've got to stop postponing your decisions, right? Choose yourself. And what I love about that, Prashna, is that you are the first one to sign up. I still remember that
Was
day.
it?
Yeah, you are.
Wow.
You immediately said on the call that I've already signed up. And I was like, oh my God, she's really ready to show up for herself.
Yeah.
You want to do this for yourself. So, Prashna, tell me something. Let's talk a bit about money, if you don't mind. How was your financial situation looking like? And how did it feel? When you came onto the workshop, you joined the program. How did your ideas around money change? So, what was it like before, and how did your ideas around money change when you joined the program?
So for the longest time, I've been very afraid to lose money or to spend money. There are all these buzzwords of, oh, scarcity mentality or mindset, etc. But for me, it was, I know I could have made things different and I know I was okay, but I was just scared, you know. I'd always be afraid of not being able. And that's what changed initially in the 5 day. There wasn't a drastic change, but there was. And then when I did the 4 month program, I started seeing that my worth is just not money, but it's more than that. Yet I can't do it. And so slowly I started putting myself out there. Slowly I said, you know, okay, you can think of a budget, you can think of every way to save money or not spend it. Um, and like I said to you the other time, for the longest time I was saying, I don't want to use my savings to live on and etc. Um, Circumstances happened that I was depleting my savings and I couldn't control. But that was also okay. You taught me to learn to say, okay, but we can build. We can always keep adding, even if it's small amounts. And I think the first time we started, you said, it's okay to save 10,000 shillings in your first month, but at least you're growing from that.
Absolutely. Beautifully said. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. So you hear that Prashna is talking about fear around money. I think a lot of us have that fear, right, around scarcity, because we are always in that pattern of what if it runs out? What if it's never enough? What if I have too many bills to pay, right? And I think you had also mentioned at some point that you had those moments where, you kind of had those sleepless nights where you worry about bills, right? And how did that change for you?
Yeah, I used to have a lot of sleepless nights. I mean, I'd open the bank app, I'd look at the total, I'd look at what bills are coming in, and this is all happening in the middle of the night when you're the only one and nothing you can do is going to change in the middle of the night. But that's what I used to do, and I lived with that for a long time, for many years.
Yes.
And what changed was the belief in myself that irrespective, I've been looked after so far by the universe, by the spirit, by God, by whatever you want to call it. And I will be looked after. I just need to show up for myself. And I need to be confident and I need to keep a high vibration and a higher frequency around myself constantly and say, I can do it. And I can say, I think from October, November last year to date, I don't now really worry about it. I do look at my bank balance when it comes to
Yeah.
around the 25th. I'll start looking at bills coming up to be paid at the end of the month, the staff, rent, etc., all the normal bills. But even if I see the depletion, I know soon enough there's an income that's coming, or soon enough a payment will be made. And it just does happen exactly like that.
That's wonderful. That's such a transformation because what I'm seeing is a transition from fear and scarcity into a knowing and a confidence and the abundance that, no matter what everything looks like externally, you're always going to be taken care of. And how does that shift feel for yourself and your family? Can you tell me a bit more about that? Now that you have experienced, a whole shift around how you feel around money, how you think about it, and how you behave with it. And you say that you've been showing up for yourself, right? It's all about showing up for yourself. So how has that impacted your life overall, and how has it been for your family?
So it's interesting you say that, because now when the conversation, let's say my son wants to go out and play paddle or go out and have a meal with his friends, and he'll be like, Mama, can you send me X 2,000, 3,000? He never spends a lot, but the kids, right? So I'd never worry. I'd be like, okay, I'll do it. I've even in the last few weeks now started looking at how giving him a credit card for himself
Wow, yeah.
to control with a limit on the card, but without me having to worry that I'm not going to be able to pay that off. Um, Before, I wouldn't say resentment, but there'd be fear, or I'd have to think, okay, so to give Kian this money, do I need to take from somewhere else? I don't. It's there
Because now you believe in the flow, that money is just going to be
for me.
flowing, right?
Yeah,
Remember, we spoke about that concept where I kept saying that whenever you're drinking up a glass of water, you're never worried about where the next batch of water is going to come from because you're
correct.
never going to keep refilling it. So that's exactly what you're applying when it comes to money.
Yeah,
And that's beautiful because what I hear is that this has given you more freedom, right? It's like you're not hesitating to make an extra expenditure. And I think prior it's like all of us were stuck in that whole scarcity loop,
yeah,
right? That because now if I spend XYZ, I'm going to miss out on something else, or I'm not going to be able to recover the money. But
correct.
now you understand the continuous flow of money,
Yeah,
and you know that you're simply circulating it, so you're always going to have more and more to circulate, right? By the way, I love that concept of money circulation because
yes,
it keeps me so happy and abundant, because you know that even if you're spending it on something, it's a circulation.
yeah,
And circulation means there's inflow and outflow. It's not just outflow. Circulation is in and out, in and out. So that's exactly what you're doing,
yeah.
right? So this is so wonderful, Prashna. Now tell me something with regards to the creator that you did for over a period of 4 months. What would you say was most impactful for you? What concept did you enjoy the most when whatever it is that we studied? And as you said, you are so committed, even if you wouldn't show up for the live classes, which was fun, considering the situation. So first I want to congratulate you that you showed up for yourself, even if it wasn't on the live classes or for all the live classes. But the point is you still did the work. So that was amazing. So you are that committed, and that's
Yeah.
what's most important, right?
Yes.
So what concept was most relatable for you? What is it that hit you the hardest in terms of the difficulties that you are going through, the challenges that you are undergoing, and then whatever we covered, what was the most impactful for you?
I think there were various things. If you recall, you told us that story of you having to move and the 333 method.
Oh yes, the 333 strategy. Yes.
So that has been one thing that's constantly on my mind. The other thing was almost saying in my vocabulary is the masks that we need to take off
Wow.
and say, these are the things that we've been holding close to us because we feel that they're protecting us, yet they were also holding us back. So that concept stayed with me a lot. And then the last thing that to date invariably now has become a habit is make, even to yourself, be as clear and to the point as you need to be. You
Absolutely.
can't just say, you know, put it out there saying, I deserve it. But what is it you're deserving?
Deserve.
Ask for the exact thing that you need.
Absolutely. I love what you talked about, masks. Can you talk a bit about that? What exactly, resonated with you regarding that? Like, what example maybe can you share if you don't mind?
So, we all have different masks. When I'm talking to Shalini, I will have this mask. In my work, I'll have the mask of being a doctor.
Yeah,
At home, I'll look after my dad and my son. So I'm a child and a parent. And I'm also a caregiver. All these are different masks, and you realize that sometimes we just hide behind it. We don't have the courage to step up or step out of that comfort zone of the masks that we're in.
absolutely.
And so slowly I started dropping these masks and showing up authentically for myself and saying, if it's a no, it's a no.
I love that. So this is about setting boundaries, isn't it?
Yes.
And this is a very, very important aspect because, as you said, we are becoming different people in terms of in front of different people. So who is it that I am and what do I desire? And
Correct.
that's one of the main things that I love teaching, because who is it that you really are and what do you desire? Because that's the first, I think that's what I teach in my first class in my
Class.
5-day workshop, that what is it that you desire? Because we have so many people around us and we have so many opinions and voices. Our environment teaches us that we should do certain things and we should do XYZ because they know us in a certain way.
Yeah.
But it's like you're close to this person, but this is you. Two of you will never have the same likes, and two of you will never understand each other to the deepest level, no matter how close you are.
Correct.
Like, I always give everybody an example of me being so close to my sibling. But we may want different things in life and we know it, and we are both working towards our, whatever it is that we desire. Though we live together, we hang out together, people even think we are twins, but we aren't, right?
Yeah.
So our spirits are very different. So this is the other person and this is you. So you've talked about it so beautifully, because it's true. We've got to become who it is that we really are if we really want to reach our goal, right? So tell me, Prashna, now that your life has started panning out so beautifully, right? What are some of the things you would like to share with the audience that you think would be very, very important for them to take home, based on our conversation, based on your experiences that, you have been through in terms of your life, in terms of the work that you've done on yourself? And once again, congratulations on choosing yourself, because I think you're such a strong woman and the impact that you're creating is just amazing. I've been seeing all your work, obviously, and I follow you on social media. So what are 2 or 3 things that you feel the audience should carry in terms of what they can do that can really impact their lives?
I think the first thing would be learn to say no and learn to say not now. We, as humans, we're naturally inclined to want to keep everyone around us happy. But by you saying no or not now doesn't mean they'll be unhappy. It just means that for the moment, allow me to finish what I need to, and I will show up for you in the best capacity. So that's one message. The other message is just trust in your inner strength, because we all have it.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid. It always works out.
Wow, that is so powerful. Because I believe most of us are operating from fear, isn't it? That what if I make the wrong decision? What if it doesn't work for me? What if it's not the right thing, right? So tell me, Prashna, for anybody who is struggling, financially, maybe in their business, maybe in their career, what advice would you give them?
I think the best thing I would say is sometimes keep the emotion out of it.
Wow.
Yeah, whether it's fear, whether it's overwhelming. Sometimes you just have to take yourself out of the emotion and look at life in a very pragmatic and logical way.
Yeah.
When you look at life that way, the decision making becomes better. So even if you feel like you need to second guess, just know that you've made it from a place of.
Absolutely. In fact, that's one of the key things that I teach on decision making, right?
Yeah.
That think from the place you want to be. And I believe that you implemented that by choosing yourself, because you are not thinking of the monthly payments that you're going to be making when you came onto the mentorship. You're thinking of where it will take you.
Correct.
And I think that's where most people bump up into fear, because they're not thinking of the place where they're going. So they keep delaying their decisions. They don't even take decisions, and they keep listening to the environmental opinions and voices, right? That,
Yeah.
oh, but I don't think you should do that. By the way, would you like to say something along those lines? Because you made your own independent decision, right? You're such a strong and independent woman. But what happens to those people who have a lot of people who are telling them from their environment that, oh, don't do this right now, it's not the right thing for you? What do you have to say about that?
I think that goes to where you need to be clear what your end looks like.
Right.
If you can picture where you want to be even 6 months from now,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be a long-term goal.
Absolutely.
It could just be from today till the end of the year.
Yeah.
And pick one thing that you want to change, even if it feels like it's the smallest thing.
Yeah.
Just pick one thing and work with that end and goal. Sometimes we can start life backwards. So instead of going from A to Z, let's go from Z to A.
I love that. Can you give us an example of that, if you don't mind?
So one of the biggest things for me was to grow my own self and my own brand. And that's what we were working on
Yeah.
the creator program. And I had to understand I had so many different hats to wear. Which one can I drop and which one do I need to choose? So I did choose a few, and I said, okay, so this is what I want to do for myself for the next year in 2026. And for me to be there, what do I need to implement? What steps do I need to take? Where do I feel I'm stuck? Why am I seeking to always stay in a comfortable space? Why do I feel afraid to step out? And when I started looking for those responses, I started looking for those answers. They just seemed to be very small suddenly. And they didn't seem so scary.
So what you wanted was bigger than your fears. Well done. And I believe it's not the same for many of us, because I think we allow our fears to take over us. So just listen to what Prashna has just said, that what she desired was bigger than her fears. And that is such a profound statement that she's just made, because I'd like you to reflect for yourself. Are your desires bigger than your fears, or are you allowing your fears to get in the way? Thank you so much, Prashna. This has been such a wonderful conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you. I hope you keep helping people.
Yes,
because you do
absolutely.
important work.
Yeah, that's my purpose.
Yeah.
So we had Prashna here, who's talked about her journey through the creator, and I want to encourage anybody who's going through any financial, business or career challenges, that you don't have to feel stuck, and you don't have to allow your fear to get into, the way of your desires, because your desires are bigger than your fears, and you only have to just make a decision. So if you are somebody who's decisive, and if you want to overcome the challenges that you are facing in your finances, business or career, then I do have a very beautiful program called the Money Accelerator that I'm helping women business owners and career professionals go through in a very, very feminine way. So don't worry, you don't have to work harder. It's only going to become easier for you.